All right, part three, if this experiment goes through, Michael De La Pena, Jake Waters, Michael Macintosh. You had changed it to MJ Macintosh last time, and Jake was all interested about the MJ thing. Either direction you want to go, Jake, take it away.
Specifically MJ12. Me and you offline have talked about MJ12, and you have a personal involvement with MJ12 that I think is a very interesting perspective that not a lot of people have heard.
I have a personal involvement with MJ12. Oh, the other Michael has a personal involvement. Sorry, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago now, I had an experience where, again, I just remembered things. A memory of an experience, and that experience was this: that I was in a hotel room in a major European city. I won't name, but for privacy
I've been
reasons.
to most of them. Now I'm curious. I've been to most of them. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, I can't talk about that due to the nature of certain work that I am still doing. And
all right, still doing. Interesting. Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, but anyway, aside from that, I was in this hotel room in Europe, and it was late at night, and it was a similar circumstance where I had experienced since I was a child, where I had been basically visited by beings, these beings that people know as gray aliens. People call them that. People call them other things.
What was your perspective of the Greys?
As far as what sense they're...
Well, some people say that they're clones, others say that they're reptilian. And so from somebody who actually interacted with them, what would be closer to those two? Some just say that they're clones from the reptilians. Who the fuck knows?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they are, frankly, and I've seen them since I was even younger than what we were talking about earlier.
Do they have telepathic abilities? They talk to you without actually talking to you.
Yes, they do. And I'm not afraid of them. I've never been afraid of them. They're not threatening or invasive or anything like that. It's almost like to me, it's like they're an advanced intelligent species that are more developed than me, and they're nothing but friendly and helpful.
Now that friendly and helpful part is what catches me. You've been a minister for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not a minister, but a missionary for however many years God has decided that it is. So how are these fallen beings kind and gentle? That's what I'm trying to get my mind around.
Well, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because there is a sort of conflict between biblical...
Those from whom the heavens fell and those of us who are here on earth.
And some people believe that they're fallen angels and demons.
Me being one of those, which is why I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, and other people believe differently.
That's that legitimate.
That maybe we just live in a different type of universe than a lot of biblically oriented.
That also gets. I studied SETI when I was at the University of Texas, and so the search for extraterrestrial intelligence always interested me because of the Nazca lines, because of what was written in the Mayan pyramids and everything else. Told me that we were visited. Now, it's easy to write it off and say that they're all negative, but that's why your interaction with them as being relatively positive is interesting.
Yeah.
So please go on.
Yeah, and it's only ever been positive for me, and I have experienced encounters with them since I was a little child. The first one I can remember was before the instance of where I was teleported. It was even before that. So it's to me, they just seem to be part of the universe that we live in. But I mean, I have had demonic encounters too, which are different, but I don't have those anymore because ever since I learned to rely on God's protection, they tend to leave me alone. But
which is why I'm interested in the fact that the grays are still around. If the demons are gone because you have the protective hand of the Lord, how are the grays still around? Because that's where was my big aha moment, which I'm still looking for.
And I've encountered sort of backlash for this too with other people who are involved in the ministry movements and whatnot. But
no backlash here, buddy. Just curiosity.
Yeah, and I sort of just reconcile the two as that maybe they're just another natural part of the universe that we're in. And of course, I also consider the possibility that I could be totally wrong and they could be demonic. I'm willing to
deceiving you beyond your own belief. But yeah, we got that with the vax now. They're deceiving the entire planet. So it's possible. However, the fact they were friendly encounters with you, and I always associated the Greys either with reptilian clones or demonic forces, but evidently they're neither. Now, studying SETI, I know that there are civilizations. I mean, I did the calculations on the Drake equation to where there are at least back in 1990, that there were at least 100,000 civilizations at our level or above in the Milky Way galaxy. Because now we have found out back then it was 20, maybe 30% of planet stars had planets. Now it's more like 85% of sun stars have planets, which increases that calculation that I had 1,000-fold. Okay, which means that there is a possibility of millions of civilizations at our level or above in this galaxy, considering evolution. So yeah, considering that they could be around stars that are billions of years older than ours, they could be much more evolved, and that would be something that the Bible described as angels and that sort of thing. It's just that I find it hard to believe that angels would come down as grays, which are also representative of those other beings that have been abducting people and abusing people and doing medical and other kinds of intrusive studies on humanity and cows and other things around the world. So yeah, my curiosity is piqued, Michael. Sorry, go on.
So Michael, what did they say to you in this room? Let's get back to it. What did the group say to you, either telepathically or verbally?
Well, basically the communication was that they wanted me to come with them for some reason, and I had never had. Well, I'll get to that. So I went with them, and we were in this craft. It was like and I had for the first time been allowed to be the pilot of this craft. Actually, I'd never flown one before.
That's funny. Explain that one.
Well, like the Roswell craft.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Navigator, this movie in the 1980s of this kid who was on this craft where he would like keep his hands on the ball or just thinking. Nowadays, it goes where you want it to go. So I'm curious.
There you go. Well, it wasn't that, but it turned out that it was in fact the Roswell craft, and that I was being allowed to pilot what was the Roswell craft. And because of communication with these beings, I knew that what I needed to do was pilot this craft and intentionally fly it through time and deliberately crash it in the 1940s in Roswell, New Mexico.
Which Bob Lazar would later do. So they take you from your time period into a future time period to travel back in time to launch something that Bob Lazar would be studying, which would develop our own technology. That's a freaky little paradigm, buddy.
Yeah. So I flew back to 1945, The Roswell incident wasn't actually in 1947 as the newspapers say it was. It actually happened in 1945, but was hush-hushed for a couple of years because of the ongoing war with Germany and the desire to keep that technology out of the hands of the Germans. So I
And
flew
later
it.
the Russians.
Well, later, yeah, but the Russians have their own stuff anyway. We're allied with them for a lot of stuff, so it's kind of like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. But like, so it was in fact the Roswell craft. I flew the Roswell craft from a hotel room in Europe in 2019 to the desert of New Mexico.
Really, 2 years ago? This is 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They called you up again.
This is a literal memory that I have, and
Obviously.
yeah, and so I was there in a crashed time spacecraft. They're not just obviously spacecraft; they're time spacecraft.
They're both linked. Time, space are the same thing.
Yeah. In 1945, and one of the other beings died. The other one was taken into captivity, and I was interrogated by the military who came to the scene, and they asked
Were
me,
at your age now when you were in that craft? So they interrogated your adult being.
a couple of years younger than I am now. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, your
Yeah.
adult self, they interrogated. It wasn't the child self that was driving the plane.
Yeah, it was me it was like 44-year-old me, 45-year-old. I'm nearly 47 now, so.
So they got this 44-year-old guy and two grays, one dead and one captured. This is
Correct.
a scenario?
Yeah. And they asked me, what is this? Is this a German craft? Are you German or something? Because we were at war with Germany.
Exactly, 45.
So they just assumed that maybe I was a German fighter pilot or something, and this was some weird German technology. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm an American, but I'm from the future. And they're like, how? What is this? I'm like, I really need to talk to the president. And they're like
they're gonna let you talk to the fucking president.
And they couldn't, like, under those circumstances, like the statement to me was that, under these circumstances, I think that's probably a good thing. So they drove me all the way to Washington, D.C. It took like a couple of weeks at the time because there weren't really any. And they introduced me to Harry Truman, who had just been made president because Roosevelt had died, and he
Mr. Harry S. fucking Truman, one of my favorites. That motherfucker was awesome. What was it like to talk to Harry S. fucking Truman?
So Michael, were you the dentist's appointment where he went missing?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
Wasn't
about
that Truman? He scheduled a dentist appointment and then apparently went missing, and it was one of his extraterrestrial experiences.
No, that would be with actual ETs, not with a military guy. His would be just a normal meeting.
But that's what they thought he was. He was recovered with two ETs in an ET craft. What would you expect?
But
I don't know.
But he's not the ET spokesman, man. He was just with them from the future.
Yeah. Well, and so
I'm not laughing at you, Mike. I'm laughing at the situation because that's just fucking awesome. I mean, you don't understand the awesomeness of that fucking situation, man. It was hilarious. 2 years ago that you talked to Harry S. freaking Truman from 45. That's pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, and he was really nice. I mean, he was a cool guy. He was kind of a nerd, so I really liked him because I'm kind of nerdy myself.
He is a nerd. He didn't want to be president. He was picked by FDR so that he would be a nothing, and
So how did this bring us into MJ12? How do you get to there from the crash?
Well, yeah. So I told him, I met him in the Oval Office, and I said, I basically, look, I'm a time traveler from the future, and he wasn't at all surprised. He didn't seem shocked or taken aback or
Okay, another
anything.
one. What's your
Yeah.
story?
So he said to me, well, if you're a time traveler, how do we end this war? So he wanted to know how the war would end. And I told him,
God,
I'm
don't
like,
tell
well,
me about Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Come on, man, you can't be that.
I told him that, you're not going to like it, but what we do, what the history books say you do, what you did, is that, invaded Europe through Normandy.
They hadn't
and
invaded
dropped,
Normandy yet?
no, and dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. And he had never even heard of atomic bombs. He didn't know what they were. He had to
Seriously?
consult somebody. Yeah, he had to consult somebody and say, "Do we have this thing called atomic bombs? What are those?" And they're like, "Yes, Mr. President, we do." And he's like, "Really? Oh my God, this guy's for real, Um, and so that's how he knew how to end World War II. I know that seems crazy, but time travel told Harry Truman how to end World War II. And
Well, time travel through Henry Bersago also told Lincoln about certain things as well. So that's one of the paradoxes that we have with time travel. Now, how many people do we have that are fucking around with time? Because
yeah,
if
Well,
it's possible,
specifically,
then how much is it possible for us to really screw around with the timelines? And then at that point, we have to think about at what level are we in a time war?
mhm, I
specifically
agree.
for Andrew, he went back and talked to Washington about military
Yeah, it wasn't
strategy.
Lincoln, it was Washington. Sorry, you're right. You're right. That was my bad.
And then Andrew's testimony was that, or his belief was that George Washington's account in, I believe it was his diary, said he came across some angels at some point, and that was his depiction of what happened in that event. And yeah,
You're
Andrew and
going to
another.
describe it in 1776, man, if it's not angels. You can't describe it any other way.
So that's what happened. I mean, I know I'm not really a time traveler because I've only done that probably just a handful of times. So
Sorry,
it's
you're more of a time traveler than I am because you've actually fucking done it.
Well, yeah,
well,
you
yeah,
could,
but I
you
mean,
could do
it
that
doesn't.
one time, Mr. Macintosh. You could do that one time, and you're a time traveler.
Thank
Is it
you
just
very
that?
much. Exactly. It's once. That's all you need to do it. And that makes you one of the few who have been able to have
Yeah.
that impact on a reality that is still existent. Because there
Well,
are
I've lived in
different
Canada, but
parallel
I'm not a
universes
Canadian.
that are developed depending on different influences and everything else. So what you do when you go back and you influence something, you influence it to, in Andrew's case and probably in yours, to propagate the existence that is reality today, when
But
that
Michael,
could be
I
another
want
possibility.
to let you. I want to let you wrap your story a little bit. We got a little under 10 minutes left, and I want to hear the rest
Mike,
of
shoot it
this
off.
story.
Sorry, I keep
We'll
interfering.
let
I
you,
apologize.
we'll let you
Okay,
close it out.
all right. So because of helping end World War II, I made a sort of a deal with Harry Truman, and that was that in the future we needed him at that point to give some support to certain things that would be instrumental in the shaping of the future. And one of those was the formation of the Majestic 12 organization,
So you helped found MJ12.
MJ12. I actually founded MJ12 with help from Harry Truman. It's named after me, MJ Michael James, MJ12, which is my name. It
12%.
was the date that
Majestic,
it was
which is with a G. Holy shit.
the date that it was founded on is an important date in my life. I can't remember what that exactly is right now. If you can remember what it is, it has some significance to me personally.
Why?
It's something in my life. The date that it was founded, it was like 9 47 or something, 9/27/47.
Why is that
I
date
can't remember.
significant to you?
If you guys can tell me what the exact date is, I can tell you exactly what happened on that date that's important in my life. I can't remember right now, but we named it that we started on that date for a reason, to prompt some sort of memory recall thing.
Wasn't
because-
there also 12 participants?
Yeah, there were 12. It was chosen basically in the same way that Jesus picked his 12 disciples.
Well, you
Holy
were
shit,
telling me
seriously?
Yeah.
you knew the names.
It was
You were telling
formed in
me
1947,
Mm.
but I can't get a specific date on it.
And Michael, I was gonna say we got about a little over 7.5 minutes left. You were telling me you remembered some of the names of those 12 individuals. Do you remember who they
Yeah.
were?
Well, one of the key one for me was Roscoe Hillencoder, because he was actually married to a relative of my dad's. Some of my family are named Clarks, and his wife was originally a Clark. He was married to a relative of my dad. And there were 11 others. They were, key, basically nerds, like industrial figures, people with access to lots of money and wealth, and who had been successful in American business over the course of their lifetime. I didn't really know a lot of those people, but Roscoe Hillencoder,
For example,
likely did, and I can't remember their names. There's a list. I think there's some Vanderbilts and people like that.
most likely.
Didn't you say Andrew was involved?
Well, not at that point, because he wasn't even born, but
Okay.
but maybe he will be. Maybe in the future he will be. I don't know, but it seems likely. But regardless, I'm trying to get all this in a few minutes because there's a lot. So the agreement with the formation of Majestic 12 was to basically start a culture in America, and that would reach throughout the world, which would gradually usher in a disclosure of the existence of extraterrestrials and advanced technologies to first the American people and subsequently to the entire world.
Which is where we are now.
Which is what started in the 1940s in America, which it was a freak fringe culture in the 40s in America, and now it's a global movement. And that is because of the agreement from Harry Truman to give backing to the Majestic 12 organization, which has now it infiltrated, started basically Hollywood, funded all of those movies, programs, everything else, to get people used to the idea of the existence of these things, so that when gradual full disclosure actually comes along, it won't be a shock, hopefully, to the majority of people, and we'll be fine with it.
With all the movies that come out, we should be fine with it, more or less.
And that was the purpose of Majestic 12. And indeed, that was the part of the agreement that was made, was to give support to that right up until the very point at which a certain individual becomes president himself in probably 2024.
Who?
The president and vice president. Hey, talk about the president and vice president, Mr. Macintosh. You've talked about both of them with me. I
think I would like to have Ann Coulter be my vice president, but
So it's you and Ann Coulter. Is that it?
It seems to me that she knows what she's doing, but
Ann Coulter knows her shit. But yeah. Who's the president along with Ann? You?
Me, yeah.
You're president in 2024.
Well, we're working on that. It seems like it could actually happen if people don't keep trying to stop it from happening. I keep trying to mess with the outcome of things and stop trying to sabotage me and stop trying to
we got to let Trump finish out his remaining tenure, because Trump is still president, and he will be president in August. And by 2024, he'll be ending his second tenure. So yeah, you're up. And Mike Pence, fuck him.
I don't think he's
pedo murderer can go wherever he wants to go.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need people who are going to be, I don't want to talk about politics too much right now because that's for another time, but we don't
Yeah,
really need people who are going to want.
Michael, we
wars and
really want
that
to
kind of
hear way more of your story. I know everybody
Definitely.
does. I don't want you to
Definitely.
I don't want you to think this channel doesn't want to hear your story. We want to hear hours of it. So if
We're
you ever
all
got,
in.
yeah, if you ever got the time, we'll
But here,
sit down and we'll do another one where we don't have all these breaks and cutoffs and get it done right.
but and while after the time that I was back there expired, it was 1947, and then at that point, Roscoe Hillencoder and the Gray Alien, and took me in the craft back to my hotel room in 2019, and there I was, almost as though I had never been anywhere in 2019, and that's
Time travel is, you don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and that's what happened. To the best of my recollection and my ability to tell it, that's how it happened, and
That
that's
sounds
the story.
perfect for the end of this Thursday, part 3. We'll see if it actually recorded. Gentlemen,
right.
we got like 2 minutes left. Let's pause this recording to make sure it works and still have a conversation. Cool?
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate it. You are always welcome on this channel.
Cool, thank you. So
right.
when did MJ12 get formed?
1948, which doesn't go along with your date, but we'll get back into that a little bit deeper. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good evening. Part 3. Hopefully this will get recorded. Peace out.
Thanks.